Hello, my name is Renita Murimi, and I am honored to be asked to speak to you today about why cybersecurity matters in the education industry. We have all heard and read and even witnessed firsthand what good cybersecurity should do, and that is to keep our networks and to keep our data safe. Fundamentally, those 7 words, keep our networks and keep our data safe, seem to be an easy proposition, one that we can all get behind. But in practice, it has proved challenging. According to data from IoT Analytics, there are close to 7 billion devices connected to the internet today. In 1982, which is about 40 years ago, the computer was such a mysterious, powerful object that Time magazine called it the man of the year. Let's go back a few more years. In 1969, the first node-to-node link was established. This was 50 years ago, and it was established in the form of the ARPANET. The first message that was sent on this link was the word login. But when the letters L and O passed through, the system crashed. Let us compare this 7 billion internet-connected devices to something else we can wrap our heads around. Human population. There are estimated 7.8 billion of us on Earth today, and it took us some time to get to this number, at least 200,000 years. So what has happened in the last 50 years is this massive growth in the numbers of devices that are connected to the internet. And all these devices, I repeat, all of these internet-connected devices play a part in cybersecurity. In practice, we know that not all of these devices are secure. That is why it is important now, more than ever, to prepare our next generation of engineers, programmers, policymakers for ways in which they can contribute to safeguarding the internet. And that is where education comes in. Awareness is often the first step in any complex scenario, and being aware of the potential of a career in cybersecurity can go a long way to increasing the numbers of securely connected people and communities. What you see on this slide is a quote by Renita Murimi, the CEO of IBM in 2015. She said, "We believe that data is the phenomenon of our time. It is the world's new natural resource. It is a new basis of competitive advantage, and it is transforming every profession and industry." If all of this is true, even inevitable, then cybercrime, by definition, is the greatest threat to every profession, every industry, every company in the world. So I will leave you with this quote. I'm sure you've heard quotes by so many other people about why cybersecurity is important, but to hear it framed in this way as the greatest threat to every profession, every industry, and every company should tell us something about the future of cybersecurity and what it means for us to have a career in this industry. First of all, let us look at some ways in which you can get the education you need to enter this career. There are at least 4 different pathways. The first one is the more formal traditional approach, which is that of degree programs in cybersecurity. One can go through undergraduate degree programs in cybersecurity, or master's degree programs, and even doctoral programs in cybersecurity. There are certifications that one might gain in addition to the degree programs or separate from the degree programs. Boot camps are another way where individuals can get the knowledge very fast over a contracted period of time. So it's an intensive mode in which individuals, students sit down and take lessons for let's say 8 hours a day for a set number of weekends, or go through a 3-week everyday boot camp. And the last one is employer-sponsored training, where at your place of work, your organization has contracted with an education vendor who comes to your organization and delivers the training for the employees. Now, it is important to note that these distinctions are not solid, that there might be a good amount of overlap in between these pathways. For example, your employer might pay for you to get a certification and pay for the training as well as the exam fees. Or your employer might offer education discounts for you to gain a master's degree program in cybersecurity, or pay for a boot camp. So these are different ways in which one might enter this industry, or rather gain the knowledge required to start a career in cybersecurity. So let us look at each of these in some detail. The undergraduate degree programs, the traditional route has been a 4-year undergraduate program in computer science or IT with a minor in cybersecurity. For those of you who go through a slightly different model of an undergraduate program in your own countries, a minor is just a sequence of, let's say, 6 courses, traditionally 18 credit hours, where students take courses in a niche discipline. And so you can have, usually the minors are not directly related to your degree program. You can have a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science with a minor in creative writing, for example, or with a minor in cybersecurity or accounting. So that gives the student enough room to explore something of their choice while still not committing herself to an entire 4-year program in that discipline. So that has been the traditional route for cybersecurity, simply because it is such a new field. Along the way now, there are more programs that are just cybersecurity, so a 4-year bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. These are not many, but they certainly exist. The next route to entering cybersecurity is through a master's degree program of a period of 30 to 36 credit hours, which is around 18 to 24 months, sometimes slightly longer. Students can explore a dedicated program in cybersecurity, occasionally with emphasis areas in topics such as cyber law or cyber intelligence or compliance, discipline-specific compliance. So that is certainly popular these days. And then if you're not still satisfied and you want to explore some more, but at the level of research, then a doctoral program is certainly the path to go. And a Ph.D. program in cybersecurity. Again, I have not seen as many that are solely focused on cybersecurity, but you can go it through the route of Ph.D. in computer science, but you write your dissertation, you do your research in cybersecurity. And there are plenty of examples of that. If you do a Google search, let's say for cybersecurity dissertations, you should come up with a good list of research in cybersecurity. So if any of you who are listening to this are wondering about how do I enter this field, or I'm already in this field but I want to know more, these are some routes in which you can further your understanding of this industry. So one of the questions that you might be wondering about is, what is in a traditional cybersecurity degree program? What are the components of cybersecurity education? The common view of a cybersecurity person is that of a hacker, someone who is sitting by himself or herself in a room and staring at 12 different screens, and you see log files just populating very fast and quick motion of hands, and you click, and you've certainly seen this scenario being played out in the movies. It's not all that. There is so much more. You can be in cybersecurity and you don't even write a line of code. That's because you're probably dealing with cyber law or compliance. On the other hand, you might just be doing a lot of coding when you're doing pen testing and or red team, blue team kind of scenarios. So there are different components of cybersecurity education, and no degree program can promise to cover all of them in detail. And really, that's the focus of any good education program, that is to give you the foundations for the discipline, and then you go ahead and explore things that you are interested in. So given that cybersecurity education is derived from other disciplines such as computer science, IT, law, compliance, privacy, and ethics, some specific courses that you might find look like this. The courses might be called Foundations of Cybersecurity, a very broad overview course that you take at the very beginning, and that way you get a feel for what this discipline is like. You might take courses in data security, which might deal with the cryptographic elements of protecting your data, or network security. The hacking component you will see in courses like pen testing. If you want to find out what happens or how you should deal with an incident after it happens, then digital forensics is the way to go. You might also look at web application security or mobile security. And then I should not say newcomer, but the newer of these disciplines is blockchain and cryptocurrencies. A lot of malware is spread using ransomware as a vector, and so that has a good deal of overlap with cryptocurrencies on the blockchain. And so learning about how that works is also an important part of your cybersecurity education. And then last but not the least, legal and ethical issues. There are so many interpretations of the law when it comes to dealing with online incidents. That's because the law was written at a time when the internet really did not exist. And so all the legal systems have done a great job in catching up to online issues of theft and fraud and identity theft. There is still a lot of work to do. So legal and ethical issues are also very important in cybersecurity. There are some additional routes, as I mentioned earlier, certification programs. If you do a Google search of cybersecurity certifications, lots will pop up, and those are administered by various certification bodies. Again, a little homework on your end will help you determine which one is the right one for you. Boot camps are another way to gain the education required if you do not have the time or the resources to commit to a 2-year master's program or a 4-year bachelor's degree program, but you still are confident that the bootcamp vendor is able to offer you the skills you need to start your career, then that is certainly an option with which you can proceed. Employer-sponsored training. Again, it's not exclusive. Your employer might contact one of the certification bodies to come and offer training, or one of the bootcamp vendors to offer training. And the last one is apprenticeship programs. I'm not sure if this model is widely replicated in cybersecurity in your countries or in your regions, but here in the United States, apprenticeship programs have been going on in other disciplines, vocational disciplines, for a very long time. For example, if you want to be an electrician or a plumber or a welder, so those specific vocations, you not only go to those trade schools to learn the skills, but as you go along your program for these disciplines, at a certain point when they deem you are ready, you will work um, with a mentor who will take you under their wing and show you what it takes to be successful in the real world. So you will shadow that person almost. You'll shadow your mentor and you will learn from him or her while on the job. It's like a real world lab, and you're not only learning the skills needed for the real world in your discipline, but you're also getting paid for it. So what has happened here is the NICE, NICE is a body that deals with cybersecurity education here in the United States, and they established the apprenticeship program for cybersecurity. And in collaboration with a few universities, it works this way. Students enter the apprenticeship program after spending a few semesters in school, and they apprentice with a federal agency or a private industry and learn what cybersecurity looks like in the real world while getting paid and getting education credit for it. So I'm sure there are similar models called differently or implemented slightly differently in your own regions, but that's another way to get a cybersecurity education. There are many other ways to learn about cybersecurity that are not as time intensive. Surely the preparation is, but the events themselves are spread out over a few days or months at the most. Hackathons are extremely popular. The word hackathon has been used in various settings. It no longer just means hacking into systems to expose their flaws and vulnerabilities. It can be applied to programming, where you're just trying to create a new product or develop an idea from prototype to a functioning model, or from idea to prototype. But hackathons in cybersecurity usually always deal with exploring what's wrong with the system and exploiting that. So these hackathons take place over a period of, let's say, 48 hours. Some run for a couple of months, so the platform is kept open for all the contestants to participate in for a few months. And you can form teams and go against other teams from around the world. So that is a very immersive, rewarding experience. The challenges in these competitions go by various names. One of the most popular ones is Capture the Flag, where after you have discovered a particular breach, there might be a token flag associated with it that you capture, meaning you have claimed it or you have owned it, and you have moved ahead one step in your journey toward winning or completing the challenge. And these kinds of hackathons are held in a variety of settings. Cybersecurity conferences usually have a hackathon associated with it, and there is a special incentive for students to participate. Students are encouraged to participate in this, and employer events, your own organization might have an annual hackathon, and employees are encouraged to find flaws in the system or discover a vulnerability that can be exploited. Federal agencies also hold such challenges, and if none of these seem to fit your time or your resources, lots of crowdsourced challenges of varying scope are held online throughout the year. You can always do a quick Google search of cybersecurity hackathons and find a venue that might interest you. So all this time I've talked about the traditional and formal routes of cybersecurity education along with the side pathways. So think of a tree with many branches. So these are the many branches of the cybersecurity education tree. But we're starting even earlier. K12 has proved to be a very helpful pipeline for cybersecurity education to start. You know, it looks like kindergarten might be too early to start, but simple things such as do not click on every link that you see, that might be something that students can understand. Or when someone is typing their password, just turn away and don't look. Never share your password with somebody else. And these are things that my own children are learning in school who are really very young. And as they grow older, there are a variety of challenges that are available to them. Oh, for example, in high school, students here are eligible to participate in hackathons, and they're encouraged to attend summer camps in cybersecurity. There is also high school work study experience. The link that you see on the slide in front of you shows you a compendium of resources. So if you're interested in spreading the word about K12 cybersecurity education, you might click on this link and find lots of things that are age appropriate and grade appropriate for teachers to use, and also tweak and develop in their own classrooms. So this is one way in which we're starting earlier in the K12 pipeline, because as we saw or heard in the introduction, cybersecurity is a field that's not going away anytime soon. We need more people. And again, if you look for the statistics, the lag between the demand and supply of people who can work in cybersecurity is massive. And it's imperative that we start early so that more students are aware that this is a career option, that minority students and women are also encouraged to think of cybersecurity as a career option. Again, we have to do this because it's such a new discipline, and we need to spread the word. Now, cybersecurity is not something that is of importance only to the large corporations. All of us who are online, that is every individual and every entity that is connected to the internet, has a stake in cybersecurity. We all know what happens when our passwords get compromised. I hope you've not experienced it, but the consequences of identity theft can be significant. It can rob you of the chance to pursue your career aspirations or your personal dreams because someone else is pretending to be you, and that person has all your information and is continuing to derive any state or local benefits or tax exemptions because they're pretending to be you. So identity theft is something that stares all of us in the face. And when a breach happens, a corporate breach happens, for example, the very famous Target breach, so many of us lose our credit card information and maybe our addresses. And I don't know what else they can lay their hands on when our systems are not properly configured. So every one of us has a stake in cybersecurity. Every industry has a stake in cybersecurity. Maybe you are a school district and you think that, you know, cybersecurity is good and important, but why should we care? It's because so much of our education has moved online now. Maybe you're maintaining grade books online. You're collecting student attendance records online, and students are taking their exams online, and teachers are being paid, and taxes and insurance records are all online. So every industry vertical, no matter the industry, if it has an online presence, then it is important that they think about cybersecurity. And there are lots of important frameworks with which you can develop good, sound cybersecurity practices. And for someone who is new, let's say a company is just looking at starting their disaster response plan or their business continuity plan, they might get overwhelmed. But the first step is always awareness and education. Once you know, you can plan better. Um, as I said before, there's an enormous demand for cybersecurity professionals. For example, the the link that you see on the slide, cyberseek.org, has an interactive heat map for the various regions in the United States that shows the number of jobs available in cybersecurity, categorized by job titles, and categorized also by how many of them need certifications, how many of them are in the major economic regions. So if you look at this map, you'll get a good sense of how this industry is shaping up to be. And so this one is showing you data about the United States, but I'm sure there is something in your own regions that shows you cybersecurity demand and demand by job title. And you can get a good sense, especially if you're just entering or thinking about entering this field, you can get a good sense of what you can aspire to. What do entry-level jobs look like? You can click on the link and see what are the job descriptions and responsibilities and eligibility requirements. And you'll get a good sense of what does it take to climb the ladder in this discipline, and what are the eligibility requirements, especially if you're getting started. So what that means for the next generation of cybersecurity professionals, this is especially for those of you who are listening, who are thinking about taking the first step toward getting a cybersecurity education or entering this industry. There is an opportunity for you to contribute in a variety of sectors. I spoke about education, but you can think of the same scenario in commerce, in finance, in defense, in government, local, state, federal government, in agriculture and forestry. So in short, any domain that you can think of that has an industry with an online presence, they need cybersecurity people. So let's say you're a cybersecurity professional and you're very interested in the energy sector, oil and gas and renewables. That is your area of interest. Well, you can take your cybersecurity skills and apply it to that particular industry. Along the line, you'll understand what it means to apply cybersecurity to the oil and gas domain. You will find out what are the compliance requirements within that domain. Or in medicine, a large amount of patient records are online. Insurance claims are filed online. How much of this information is to be held private? How much can be exchanged with other vendors? All of these are defined by the compliance laws in the medical profession. And as a cybersecurity individual, you will cross paths with those domains. So again, cybersecurity is very versatile. You need not be confined to just programming. You can take your skills and apply them across any industry domain. And because it's such a new field and it changes so fast, it requires you to embrace innovation. What is the standard tool today might be different from what is the standard tool or software programming language 5 years from now. So it's challenging work that requires us, it behooves us to be innovative in how we practice our craft. And most of all, it is not a place where you sit by yourself in a room and you're staring at 12 different screens. You are working with others, because cybersecurity requires you to understand perspectives from a variety of disciplines. And so you need to collaborate with others in a team. And as you saw on the cyberseek.org website, there is increasing job scope and opportunities to collaborate with professionals across various disciplines. How a career in cybersecurity will help you excel? There are opportunities for climbing up the ladder. So you start as a systems analyst in cybersecurity, and you could very well be on your way to becoming the CISO of your organization. And let's say you're in oil and gas, but you can take your cybersecurity skills and transfer them to a different discipline. Of course, there will be a learning curve to understand the discipline and the compliance requirements of that domain, but you could switch from oil and gas and energy and move to medicine, for example. Um, Cybersecurity at its core is interdisciplinary. You need to understand the basics, the foundations of how computer science is important in understanding good cybersecurity. Information technology and networks, how are they built? What are the different protocols? What are the flaws in those? Psychology. Ultimately, we are building all these networks to bring people together. And so we have to understand how people behave in front of screens. What is it that they are most attracted to? Why do people click on phishing links in spite of the many education and outreach opportunities that they're presented with? It's because it is very hard for humans to distinguish these days between what is spam and what is not spam, what is a real link and what is a phishing link. And operations, how does the industry operate and what are the flaws that can be exploited? So cybersecurity will help you understand best practices, tools, and concepts. And I cannot emphasize this enough, but it is necessary in our discipline to learn continuously and to be willing to collaborate with others. So what do you need to pursue a career in this field? The pathways that we mentioned are some of the ways in which you can move up or move in for the first time. It's a combination of multiple proficiencies. You need to have a good education, and that could be any of the pathways: undergraduate, graduate education, bootcamp certifications. You could be pursuing a Ph.D. and doing a dissertation on cybersecurity. You could be working on projects out of your own initiative, and of course your past experience. And the reason I say experience is because many of us have been doing cybersecurity for a very long time. We were just not called that. Maybe you were employed in the IT department for the past 2 decades or so, and you've been doing updating, patching, installing antivirus systems, and scouting your systems for malware. So you have been practicing cybersecurity in some form or the other. So all of that experience will help you as you go ahead and understand the new frameworks and the domain-specific compliance codes. So now I'll talk a little bit about collaboration and initiative. In cybersecurity, there are different domains. It's not a monolith. For example, if you're interested in the hacking stuff, pen testing might be a way for you to further your interests. If you're interested in designing secure protocols, cryptography, data protection, data security might be the way you're going ahead. Understanding the networks and devices, the connections to the cloud, you will look at network security. And then also if you're interested in ethics and legal issues, then law, ethics, privacy, that will be an area of focus. And domain-specific compliance is something that should be on all of our radars. So what I suggest is that you look for others with whom you can collaborate. Find your local cybersecurity chapter. This could be any of the major organizations who have local chapters, and contribute to that chapter. Maybe they have a monthly meeting that requires someone to take minutes or be the treasurer or take a roll call of people who are all in a meeting. Maybe your local chapter is organizing a hackathon and they want you to set up the systems for it. So when you contribute, you get a sense of how it is to be on the other end, and you will certainly network with many other individuals who share your interests. Read. This is important. It is important to understand the basics of your area of choice as well as state of the art. And reading is not a one-time thing. It is important to constantly read because as it is, we have too many demands on our time. And secondly, this discipline changes so fast. So another way in which you can move ahead is pursuing a degree program in cybersecurity. One of the ways in which you can do that is when you refer back to the original slides, you'll see the undergraduate programs in cybersecurity or graduate programs in cybersecurity. And those are certainly ways in which you can get a solid foundation of what the discipline is supposed to look like, and you'll get a sneak peek into many of the domains. You'll have courses in pen testing and cryptography and security for both data and networks. You'll learn about ethics and law and compliance issues, privacy issues. So it's a great way for you to enter into this industry through a formal education. And it's important also to give back to the community regardless of your level. So when I say connect with your local chapter, you will see individuals who are CISOs of their organizations. You'll see people who have years of experience under their belt who are just volunteering so that they can share their knowledge and help mentor the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. So ways in which you can give back to the community are to volunteer as a speaker. Maybe you could speak at the next meeting of your local chapter, or you can hold an online seminar about something that you find interesting, and take up any of the leadership roles. Let's say there is a hackathon, or in your own graduate programs or undergraduate programs in school, you might find there are opportunities to get involved. So it's important to take those opportunities as your time and resources allow. And I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to collaborate with other disciplines. It is not enough for us to just talk to and listen to cybersecurity folks. It is important for us to speak to people from accounting and marketing and legal, so that we understand what cybersecurity means to them. How do they deal with the varying guidelines, and how frequently your organization requires them to change passwords, or how they perceive good links as different from phishing links. So these are something that you can understand only if we collaborate and hear from people in other disciplines. And time management is the last thing that I will talk about. Our field changes rapidly, and so it is important for us to stay informed of best practices. For example, there are lots of frameworks available on how to develop a good strategy to keep your organization secure in case there is a ransomware attack. How should you prepare? Because thinking about it after the incident is going to be a very expensive endeavor. So preparation is key. So how do you stay informed of best practices? What was true of, let's say, ransomware 5 years ago is not true anymore. So reading and hearing from others and staying on top of your chosen discipline is important. It's also important to stay connected with your local and regional communities in cybersecurity. And like we spoke about, you have to read, you have to educate yourself through either a degree program or any of the alternate paths. If you have certifications, then those have requirements to stay valid. So that also takes time. Local organizations have different administrative positions and departments which you might take up. And networking also takes up time. I mean, we cannot just cold call someone on LinkedIn and just ask for mentorship. It takes time to build a relationship. So all of this takes time in our discipline, and it's important that you leave some time for yourself. It's only when we are able to allocate our time wisely that we are able to be successful. And so for the next slide, which is my last point that I will talk today, is I want to leave you with a quote by Thoreau. He says, if you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundations under them. And I think that cybersecurity is the foundation of our online world. And it's important that it be done well and it be done in a secure, robust manner. And that requires the work of all of us, of people who have been in this field for many years, of people who are about to get into this field. And as I mentioned earlier, all of us have a stake in cybersecurity. So it is up to all of us to contribute to that strong foundation. Thank you. And I would like to thank you for your time. And at this point, I will be ending this talk.